Hello again, it's Mrs. Renfro, and I'm going to show you how to find the area of a parallelogram, a trapezoid, and special shapes for the week of April 27th. Okay, so we did squares, rectangles, and triangles. So now we are on the same sheet that is on your Google Notes or Google Classroom. We have parallelogram and trapezoid on this sheet. So the area of a parallelogram is still base times height, but to find the height of a parallelogram, it has to be a straight line. It can't be one of these sloped lines. Those don't work. So what we do is we find a straight line from the base straight up. And most of the time it's going to be drawn for you when we're looking for these. So it says, remember, height is measured straight up and down, not at an angle. The side of a parallelogram is not the height. It's often found inside the shape. So the height is inside the shape. You go from the base straight up, and that will be your height. Okay? And let's go ahead and look at the parallelogram that we have here on this sheet and work that. So a lot of you will want to use this 6 for the height, but that's not going to be right. Remember, it's not an angle, it's not a slope. You want the straight line. So the formula for area is base times height. So we are using 8, which is the base. I'm sorry, it got blurry. There we go. Whoop. Okay, so the area, the base is 8, and the height is this straight line going from the base straight up. And it could be anywhere in here as long as it's going straight up. A lot of times they'll go from one corner straight up. So that's 4 is the height. So 8 times 4 is 32. Our units are inches and then squared. Remember, you can do that as inches with a little 2, or if you're typing, that's kind of hard to do, so you just put SQ for squared. That's fine. Okay? So parallelograms are really easy. Just base, and then height is the straight line that's inside the shape usually. Okay? So we have a parallelogram problem down here, number 7. It says find the area of a parallelogram with a base of 22 meters. So I'm going to draw this parallelogram. And they always look like a rectangle that's been pushed over to the side a little bit. It leans a little bit. So the base is 22 meters. The side length is 12 meters. And the height, which is going to be like right in here, is 8 meters. And we don't really need that side. That doesn't matter. But usually they throw that in there to see if they can confuse you. Okay? So remember, we want base times height, which is 22, times 8, which is 176 meters. And then we want squared, so we can either do that, or we can say 176 meters squared, if you want to write it that way. Alright, so back to the front sheet to look at trapezoids. Trapezoids are a little bit different. They have 2 lines that are parallel, but they're not equal in length. So we call this base 1 on the bottom, base 2 on the top. And then we want the height, which goes from base 1 up to base 2 as a straight line, not one of these leaning lines. Okay? So what we do when we take base 1 and base 2, we want the average of those lengths. So that's why we divide by 2, to get the average. Remember, the average is adding 2 things together and dividing them by 2, or adding 3 things together and dividing by 3. That's how you find the average. So base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 will give us the average base length. Then we multiply that by the height. Okay? We don't want the slanted lines. We want that straight line going straight up from base 1 to base 2. Alright, so now let's go to the parallelogram on the worksheet. Or parallelogram, the trapezoid, I'm sorry. I do want to point out that these are not labeled. You do need to know what those shapes are. And I know in kindergarten you start learning these shapes. You may have forgotten them, but I remember teaching some of you this in kindergarten whenever I had you in the math room. So you may need to look at this sheet to see what they look like. Now, a trapezoid can be like this, or it could be like this, where the short line is on top and the long line is on bottom. It doesn't matter. And it also doesn't really matter if you call this base 1 or base 2 and this base 1 or base 2, as long as you've got the two bases and you find the average of them. So write the formula out first. That is helpful to always write the formula. So I have base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. The height is not divided by 2, just the two bases, okay? So base 1 plus base 2 is going to be, let's say we make this base 2 like we did the other one, and this base 1. So we have 12 plus 6 divided by 2 times the height, which is 9, not the 10, right? We want the straight line. As soon as this gets back focused, I'll show you this. Okay, so 12 plus 6 is 18 divided by 2 times 9. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So we have 81, and it's meters squared, or 81 meters, and then just put your SQ. That's fine if you're typing it. Okay? So then we go down here to number 8. Find the area of a trapezoid with a height of 5 centimeters. Base 1 is 16, base 2 is 4, and a side length of 10. So I'm going to draw that. Not very straight, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So base 1 is 16, base 2 is 4, the height there's height. Height is 5, and the side length is 10, but we don't really need that. So we need base 1. So we have 16 plus base 2 is 4 divided by 2 times the height. So 16 plus 4 is 20. Run out of room here. 20 divided by 2 times 5. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 times 5 is 50. And our units are centimeters squared. Okay? So that's how you do trapezoids. Base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. Alright, I did want to show you one more thing. This week you're going to have finding area of special shapes. And it might look something like this. And people in construction or building would do something like this a lot. Like maybe you have a pool that you're putting in, and this is the regular area of your pool, and maybe this is the shallow end that you want to just walk into to get to the deep area. Okay? Or you might have a garden that looks like this, and you want to find the area of your garden. Maybe you've got some flowers planted here and all your vegetables are out here. So we need to find the area of this shape. So there's two things you can do. You could make this one big long rectangle and find the area of that and subtract out this area in here. Or you can find the area of this shape and add the area of this shape. Usually I do the adding if I can. That's just easier for me. But you can do it either way that you choose to. So I'm going to draw a dotted line here to make these two separate shapes for now. Now, this is a rectangle and this is a rectangle. So the area of a rectangle is base times height. Okay, so we're going to do 4 times 3, which is 12. And I'm going to say that's the area of the first shape. And we got blurry again. I'm sorry. When I put my arm underneath there, it tries to focus on my hand. So this is the area of shape 1. And let's just say this is feet. Okay, we'll make these all feet. So that's 12 feet squared. The area of area 2, shape 2, is 4 times 1, right? So base times height again, it's going to be 4 times 1, which is 4 feet squared. So now all I have to do is add these two together, and I have the area of the whole shape. So 12 plus 4 is 16 feet squared. So it's pretty easy to do if you're adding shapes together. If you're wanting to do the subtraction, you would have made this one big long rectangle, and you know this whole side is 3, so this whole side would be 3 also. This part is 4, this is 4, so that means this line would also be 4. So you would have 4 plus 4 would be 8 times 3 for the whole shape. And then you would subtract out the 4 times 2, because this side would be 2 to add up to get 3. That's a little bit more complicated for that one. That's why I said it's easier for me to just make it into shape 1 and shape 2. And that way you can add them together when you're done. Alright, so that makes it a little bit easier. Alright, let's try one more like this. Let's say we have, let's see, I'm going to make that a triangle and make this one a okay, let's say we have that shape. Okay, now the reason I drew this line, we're going to make that a triangle over here. Okay, so we're going to have the area of a triangle, and that'll be the area 1, and then we have, let's make this one a trapezoid coming in like that. Take that out. There, now we can do that. Okay, so now we have a trapezoid and we have a triangle. So this is area 2. So the area of a triangle, for area 1, we're going to do 1/2 times base times height. And for the trapezoid, I'm going to call that area 2, we're going to do base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. And if we were in school, you guys would be asking me, do I need to write this formula out every time? And I would say, yes, you do, because it helps you remember the formula better, okay? Always write your formulas out, okay? So now I need to come up with some numbers here. Let's say this is 4, and this is 4. This side is going to be, let's say this is 10. And I'll put the height in here. Let's make that 3, and let's make this 4. Okay? And you might have other measurements in there. They might put the side length over here. They might tell you what this is. You don't need that, okay? So the area of the triangle is 1/2 of base times height. So we're going to have 1/2 of 4 times 4. Which is 1/2 times 16, which is 8. So that one, let's say we made this one centimeters. 8 centimeters squared for the triangle. Okay? Now the trapezoid, base 1 is 4. Base 2 is 10. We're going to divide that by 2. Multiply by the height, which is 3. So we have 14 divided by 2 times 3. So that's going to be 7 times 3, which is 21 centimeters squared. So now we're just going to add the two together. Area of the one plus area of the second one. 8 plus 21 is 29 centimeters squared. That's how you would do that one. And that one is a little bit more complicated because you had two separate shapes. They were different types of shapes rather than just two rectangles. Okay? But not too hard. Once you know how to do the individual shapes, you can do all of the special shapes with no problem. All right? Okay, so you might want to check this out. You'll be doing, on Monday, you'll be doing a, I'm sorry, not on Monday, on the next Monday, you'll be doing a quiz that will be over all of these, and you will be allowed to use this for the quiz, obviously. That's why I'm putting it on there, so that you can practice that. You know all of the area formulas, and you know how to work them all. Okay? And like I said, the answer key right here will be included in that file on the Google Classroom for you. Okay? All right. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me, but please try to figure these out from the papers that I've given you. Use your resources wisely, and I will talk to you later. Have a great day.